Hello, everybody. Welcome into a Friday edition of the Computer America show. Yes, it's Friday. We made it, and we've got a great program set up for you. Of course, this is the pre-show, behind the scenes, if you're watching us in the live video. And we have Nathan Evans, managing editor of Popzara magazine, is going to be here with us for both hours. We're going to be talking tech news, gadgets, and movies. It's going to be a fun Friday, fly by the seat of your pants show, as they usually always are, especially with Nate. And so
1 minute until showtime.
So sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We'll be starting in less than 60 seconds. Ben, I need you on aim. Thirty seconds.
If it's not the Siri chick for Blog Talk, it's Craig. Always with the nerves.
That's a countdown.
Yeah, I know. Makes people nervous. Say, get ready, folks. You ready?
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live. It's America's longest-running national radio talk show on computers, Computer America. Hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. Look for Craig's weekly column in your favorite newspaper. This show is being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. Keep it here for technology news, computer products, guest interviews, and your phone calls. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello, and welcome into the Computer America show. It's the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. Computer America is heard around the world and coast to coast. And I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And it's Friday! Yes, we made it. Another week of broadcasting excellence in the can here, as we say at Computer America. And so we got a great show planned for you tonight. Of course, probably an hour or two, we're going to have our show reminder winner of the week. And yes, someone's going to win that beautiful glass touchpad wireless from Logitech, about $80. So we're going to have that winning name too. And of course, tonight is the last night for the Logitech contest. Aww. Yeah, I know. Midnight tonight, we close the doors. You can't get an entry after that. And the registration form is right on the website. It's right on our contest page at ComputerAmerica.com. So you have about a little less than 2 hours to get your entry in. Okay? And then on Monday, over the weekend, we'll draw the 3 winning names. On Monday, we'll announce the 3 big winners. And we will have another contest. But, you know, it won't be until, the winner won't be announced until 2015. I know.
Till late 2015, too. That's crazy.
Yes, it is. But so why would you want to wait? And just get your contest entry. Let's go to the contest page at ComputerAmerica.com. It's right under the Interact pull-down menu on our homepage, on any page of the Computer America. And get your contest entry in now. I mean, you have till midnight, okay? Come on, folks, let's do it. And I have to say, there's been like a gold rush of entries to the Logitech contest. We're giving away those 3 great prizes, and so there's we certainly welcome all of your entries. But you know, you still have a better chance of winning something really nicer than, let's say, winning the lottery. You know, I mean, the odds are so much more in your favor. So get over there, get your entry in. What can I say? So as I said, it's Friday, and since we're kind of all over the road, we're going to talk technology, we're going to talk computer news, we're going to talk about movies, we're going to have a lot of fun here. And to help us in that effort is Popzara magazine. More specifically, the managing editor of Popzara is here with us, Nathan Evans. And, it's a really great website. You need to check it out. I mean, there's all kinds of things there, and we certainly welcome you to go to popzara.com. In the meantime, Nate, welcome into Computer America. How are you?
Hello, Craig. Hello, Ben. What's up?
Well, you heard.
Not a whole lot.
I don't know. I thought I was here to help. I feel like a tool, but a very nice tool.
Yes. Well, you know,
Not our sharpest, but we have many, so, you know, top five. Top five.
I didn't say that, Nate.
I've been called worse by my mother.
Aw.
So, anyhow, as I said, we've got lots to talk about. And now, if you have a comment or a question or a suggestion throughout the show, we welcome you to call us. It's real simple. Pick up the phone and dial 347-884-8881. That's 347-884-8881. That'll get you on and get you through. We also have an email address set up when we're live and on the air. It's live, L-I-V-E, at computeramerica.com. Okay, and if you're radio shy, you don't want to go on the air, that's a great way for you to communicate with us. You can also join us in our live interactive chat room from our homepage at computeramerica.com. You'll see right in the middle there it says interact with the show. There's a big button right there that says chat and live video. Okay, it's also under the interact pull-down menu too. Either one will work. And when you click that, it will you'll get a kind of a split screen. On the left-hand side is the live IRC chat room entry port. It'll ask you for a nickname. That's the name you're going to be known by when you go in there. There's a reCAPTCHA code, which is usually a number or a couple of words. It just authenticates supposedly that you're a live human being and not a bot. We just did a big story about how this really doesn't work anymore and what Google is doing to improve it. But in the meantime, we're still using it because it is not there yet. And click the connect button, and your browser will move you into the chat room. Now, right beneath it, there's a nice big button there that says click for IRC clients. If you click that, it'll take you to our free software page. Okay? And on the very bottom of that, you'll see several different IRC clients. They're plugins, depending upon the brand of browser you're using and the platform on which your computer is using. One of them, at least one or not more, will work for you. Pick one. And what that does is just it formats the chat room in a more pleasingly graphic user interface. It actually makes its own window, and the text is colorized, and so it's nice. But it's completely optional. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to. Most people who become regulars in the Computer America chat room choose to use that one of those clients. And then on the right side of that same page is our live Computer America streaming video page. You can see us there. You can see me. You can see Ben. And you can usually see our guests. In this case, you'll see Nate, but you'll see a cartoon character because Nate's kind of shy. But you can see everything that goes on in the program. And of course, we always archive everything. We archive the audio. We archive the video on YouTube, on iTunes, on Blog Talk Radio. We have all these different places that you can actually see and watch the show and listen to it as well. So that's just kind of how you interact with the program. Of course, the easiest way, again, pick up the phone and call us, 347-884-8881. Okay, so that's to do it. So we're going to start off here, and where do you want to start? I mean, Ben, you got the list of things. Do you want to talk about technology? Do we want to talk about movies? We got 2 hours to talk about all these things. Anything tickle your fancy, Ben?
You know, it's Friday. People are, pretty late Friday night, so they're probably going to catch a movie this weekend, if not tonight. Why don't we start off with movies?
Okay. All right. Well, Nathan, what do we got on the movie horizon? What's coming up? Some big news, huh?
Well, it depends on what fan of a genre you are. I don't know if anybody heard this week, but there was some big movie news regarding some sequelitis. Ben, I think you're probably a bigger movie fan than me, too. I think you know the movies that I'm talking about.
Sequelitis? You talking about like Hunger Games?
No Hunger Games. No.
Which one?
If anybody didn't notice, the Sony Pictures announced the next James Bond film.
Oh yeah, Spectre.
He was waiting for that. He had that queued up.
Yes, there's going to be a new Bond that's coming out.
I know, shocking. I can hardly believe it. I can't believe after Skyfall made over $1 billion and became the most profitable James Bond films and one of the most popular films of all time, there's going to be another one. I know, color me shocked.
Yeah, well, and you know what it is, but each and every one of them with Daniel Craig is really a reboot of they really, the first one started off really with how he became, not how he got into the became a double O. That's he was with the Secret Service, but the first one really got into a little bit about the background, how he becomes a double O, and we're seeing each episode is kind of a redo, but with new things thrown in, obviously. But that's what they're doing, because quite frankly, Ian Fleming only wrote so many books, and that was it. So it's a reboot of James Bond without all the gadgets and the toys, at least initially. Now I do know one of the things that they announced is that because there was a big huzza about the fact that Bond was going to be driving a Fiat or something like that, as opposed to the beautiful Aston Martin that that is sort of his trademark car. And I understand that Aston Martin actually is unveiling a car that's going to be.
They had to come out and calm the masses, like, chill, people, chill. He's still going to be driving an Aston Martin.
Yeah, exactly.
But, for movie fans, the reason 007 Spectre, or whatever they're going to call it eventually, the reason it's so exciting is because for those of us, spoiler alert, who saw Skyfall, the pieces all clicked. At the end of the film, the pieces were all in place for this to be a fully rebooted James Bond. There was a new M, Moneypenny, Q, all there, all in place. And now, from what we can understand, it sounds like just the idea of Spectre, it sounds like that with the casting of Christopher Waltz, it sounds like we're going to have Blofeld back as well. Yeah,
well, what is Spectre without Blofeld, right?
It's nothing. That's nothing without Blofeld. We need him and his pussycat. But they're also new to the cast as well will be David Faustina, I can't pronounce his name. The one of the Guardians of the Galaxy, who will be joining as what they call as a Jaws-like supervillain. So I'm excited.
Now, what Spectre is actually an acronym. You know what it stands for, don't you, right?
It stands for Special Something Something Something.
Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terrorism, Revenge, and Extortion.
I love the old James Bond films, but every time I hear an acronym like that, I think of two things. I think of G.I. Joe Cobra, and I think of the great Don Adams show, Get Smart. The Cone of Silence.
That was a good, funny show, though.
I love it. Mel Brooks at some of his best.
Yeah, it really was. But so they are going to have Spectre. So are you saying that are they going to go into more of the gadgets because he's going to have his new Aston Martin, and I think it's going to be tricked out.
Well, he now has Q at his side.
Yeah.
So the quartermaster himself. So I expect not the craziness of the Roger Moore classics, which are my favorite, by the way, but not entirely the zaniness of the Pierce Brosnan. I expect something similar, and I just want to make a statement that Sam Mendes, the director, and especially the last few directors of these films, they have gotten the mix of reality and crazy just right in a way that I think the Batman films have failed. I don't want my superhero movies being so sterile that everything's depressing. And I think if they keep continuing on this line, look, as long as he doesn't ice skate or ski down a river of frozen ice while a laser attacks, throw in all the sharks and exploding bad guys you want, I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
Apparently, you just don't want to throw in the crazy tropes, but still, kind of be honest to what it is. It's James Bond. It's an action film. It's it's supposed to be exciting.
There's a big divergence between what the hardcore film nerds say they want and what the hardcore film nerds actually want. It's like Star Wars, which of course I know you guys have talked about the Star Wars trailer. But it just proves a theory that we've had all along. The very last people you should ever solicit advice about a movie is a movie nerd. They don't know what they like. They don't know what they want. They hate everything and they love everything. They're the ultimate bipolar film geek. They do it all. And if James Bond 24, I think whatever it's called, the 24th film, has a shark, like if it matches Sharknado and has sharks flying from the sky, satellite dishes that beam intergalactic stations, they're going to say they hate it, but secretly they'll go and see it.
Yeah.
10 times.
Yeah. It's that old suspension of disbelief. But it's interesting, though, the new series of Bond films with Daniel Craig seem to be more in the lines of what we're seeing with superheroes. It's like if these people were to exist in our world, this is more than likely what they would be like. I mean, the Superman movie. I mean, all the Superman movies were like slapstick and comedy. I'm sorry, Christopher Reeve, but they were. Whereas this Man of Steel, I mean, it's serious. There's no slapstick. He has issues and things that he deals with. And I thought it was probably the most realistic Superman movie that I've ever seen, and I really, really enjoy it. Same with the Batman films. I mean, it's like if you had a guy, if you had somebody who actually did that in the real world, what would the limitations be, and how would you deal with them? And so,
I would say you're right, Craig. Discounting the attack of satellite dishes raining down on a bloodless New York and a nuclear explosion not killing anybody, or with radiation poisoning not an issue, they're pretty realistic.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you're right. I mean,
but they're superhero movies.
Yes. There has to be some suspension of disbelief. Absolutely. I mean, when Batman has a little thing and he throws down and attracts bats, and they're there within 15 seconds, rather than the reality of something like that actually existing. I mean, there are things where you have to let it go, but still, the whole picture in general was more down to earth, and what it would be like if these people actually existed in our world.
I think it's reflexive. I think ultimately people want serious up to a point, but then it becomes stifling. The #1 movie of the year was an intergalactic space saga featuring a wisecracking idiot, crotch-grabbing machine gun raccoon, a talking tree, and a prima donna bad guy, and it was the biggest movie of the year.
I did not like it. I did not like Guardians of the Galaxy.
And yet, I know so many people that did.
Yeah, well,
it made a lot of money.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's unsuccessful. I'm just saying that it was too comic book. It was too comic book-ish, that's
what Guardians of the Galaxy was always billed at. It's a comic book. It was supposed to be strange and over the top.
Well, but Superman's a comic book too. I mean, so is Batman. They're all comic books, but you can take it to the nth degree.
You have to have some fun, though. At some point, I think by the third Batman movie, we were done with that Batman. I think it was the Batman Rise of the Joker, whatever it was called, Rise of the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
I walked out of that movie thinking, A, this was the worst Batman movie I've seen since Batman and Robin, and second of all, I didn't want to see any more villains because all the fun was going to be stripped away.
He was serious. The Joker was a serious villain. I mean,
in the second film, it was good, but by the third one, it just became. There was no fun in these films anymore. It was like being underwater for 10 minutes.
It was a drama.
It was a drama. I guess that's the difference. I appreciated the drama because I was tired of the slapstick and that of the other films. They weren't taken seriously. They were like made for kids. These were adult movies made for adults.
Although the one thing I couldn't help on the Rise film was the fact that Batman's back was broken, and somehow a scummy Siberian prison chiropractic could somehow reattach his vertebrae, and he could be fighting again in 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Now, look, I said there's a lot of suspension of disbelief, but still, the overall tone and the premise of the film, there was no slapstick, there was no comedy, there was no, the Batman TV, slam, bang.
Well, say goodbye to that. Say goodbye, because they just announced a Batman spin-off from the DC Comics called Suicide Squad. And this movie is going to star Will Smith. It's going to star Tom Hardy, the man who played Bane in the last Batman, and Jared Leto as the Joker. There's not going to be any more realism in the future Batman movies for at least 10 years. And so let's see what Zack Snyder does with his DC universe. DC and Warner have given him carte blanche to create their own version of the Avengers, their own interlocking universe. We'll see what happens.
We're gonna have the Justice League, exactly. There's that one, and then of course that's the DC, and then of course the Avengers. We'll just have to, as you say, you'll just have to wait and see. So tell us a little bit more about the Bond film. So, or do we not know much more about it, other than the fact that he's gonna?
We know that the logo for the movie looks like the old Octopus logo, except now it's made with a bullet shard, which I think looks really cool. Yeah. But I don't want to know anything, but I will say this. My prediction is they will get Adele to do the theme song again, because if they're going to mimic the 60s Bonds, the Sean Connery Bonds, then they should mimic the Shirley Bassey double take. Remember in the '60s they had Shirley do 2 great themes.
Goldfinger, yeah, she really.
Yep, and Diamonds Are Forever.
They're saying that she really put Bond on the map with that song.
Yeah, let's not kid ourselves. If Adele hadn't done the song for Skyfall, it would have made half the box office.
I mean, so that there's no question about it.
Yeah, she was hot. She was hot back when that hit.
Yeah, I mean, well, look. I mean, look. How many Bonds we've had? You had Sean Connery. It was the guy before him that did that. But Sean.
There was Sean Connery, Lazenby, Roger Moore. Right. There was oh God, I love this actor, and I can see him in my head, and I can't think. The man from the '80s, Tim something. Yeah, and then
of course Pierce Brosnan, and now Daniel Craig, and each have their good and bads. There's no question about it. Of course, the newer movies get to use more technology, although it's interesting because the Skyfall really didn't use that much CGI or technology because he really wasn't doing anything that outrageous. He was just based.
Well, I mean, for James Bond, if you don't want to be over the top, you don't want to be, what really James Bond? Then I think the more practical effects you can put in rather than special effects, the better off that movie's going to be.
Yes, and Skyfall was partly shot in IMAX, and there were certain scenes like when they were in China, and I forget the city, Singapore, wherever they were. It was very beautiful. Just a very gorgeous movie to look at, done by a very competent director of photography. Everything about the film was AAA blockbuster status. Fantastic.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And we're gonna hopefully we'll get more of that. And so, all right.
But I do want to segue because the Bond films connect with one more little quick news story. Is that they've invented a new word, rebootquel.
Rebootquel?
Really? Rebootquel. When they don't bother rebooting fully, but they make it kind of a sequel, which is what the other big movie news, which was the debut trailer of Terminator Genesis.
What? See,
Yep.
I thought you were going to say Jurassic World.
No, that makes me ill. We'll talk about that later. But no, a rebootquel is when you decide to reboot a franchise, but not quite, and hire back some of the actors. They've done this in James Bond. They had Judi Dench play M through successive James Bonds. So she hung around, even though it was rebooted. They didn't bother explaining it.
Well, she died in Skyfall. Another spoiler. Sorry.
Spoiler. She died in Skyfall, but clearly she was part of the Pierce Brosnan universe, and she was part of the Daniel Craig universe. But with Terminator, if everybody remembers, they have tried several times to do Terminator without Arnold Schwarzenegger, with zero luck. So what do? They brought back Arnold Schwarzenegger. And in Terminator Genesis, Arnold Schwarzenegger returns in a rebooted prequel redo, which reminds me, if anybody's seen the trailer, the first thing that comes to mind is Back to the Future Part 2. They decided to go back to the first film and redo it.
So Schwartz, but he's much older now. How is he going to do a Terminator?
Well, the story plot that we know is that for spoilers, this is in the trailer, that it picks up. They redo the events of the first film. So instead of sending Kyle Reese back, they send John Connor himself to protect his mother. And when John Connor finds his mother, she's being chased by a T-1000, played by Bong Ki-moon or whatever his name is, from G.I. Joe, the White Shadow Ninja. Very good action star, by the way. I wish I knew his name. But anyway, it turns out Sarah Connor is already a kick-ass warrior because, and here's the twist, the original Terminator was sent back to her childhood. And Arnold raised Sarah Connor to be a kick-ass soldier. And so by the time the Terminator from the original film comes back, which, by the way, they reproduced in CG, it looks fantastic, old Arnold shows up and blows him away.
I'm confused.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So what they're doing is they're rebooting it by sequelizing it, by recasting it. And the cast now includes the Dragon Lady, the Queen of Dragons, Emilia, whatever her name is, from Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, yeah.
Yep, she's replacing Linda. I don't want to say replacing because no one can replace Linda Hamilton, but she's recasted Linda Hamilton. And Arnold Schwarzenegger now plays some version of the T-800 that he played in the other films. But he looks great.
Well, of course, they can use CGI on Arnold because I don't know if you remember the last one. He appears he appears as complete CGI. He looked the Terminator. He looked like he did very, very young. I don't know if you remember that scene where we only see him for like about 5 minutes or something.
Oh yes, in Terminator Salvation.
Yeah, so you see him for like about 5 minutes toward the end. He comes in and he looks just like he used to. And I think they interviewed Schwarzenegger on like the Tonight Show or something, and he was talking about it. He said, "Yeah, some fan came up to me and said it was the best picture I've been in yet," and he went, "I wasn't in that film, you know."
Well, Terminator Salvation was a box office failure, and it was an aborted attempt to reboot the franchise with Christian Bale, and it didn't work. So now they're disowning it, and we've seen this reboot this year already. We saw it happen successfully with X-Men: Days of Future Past.
Yes.
The third film in that franchise is widely considered crap. And so what the new film does, it goes back, reboots the universe, and we've also seen it happen in Star Trek, where they go back and they reboot the universe, but it's still technically a sequel because characters like Leonard Nimoy and in the next Star Trek film, William Shatner will show up. So it's technically they've announced he's coming back.
Wow.
And so because he's still alive in this universe because they rebooted it.
Wow.
So they basically, it's like comic books. Don't get too attached because everyone's going to die. Then they're going to come back alive. They're going to come back to life, and they're going to do things you don't want. But then we'll just reverse it because we'll just hit the reset button.
Yeah, exactly.
But I will say this: in the new Terminator film, I'm going to withhold my judgment. But I will say the older Arnold with his gray hair and his new green hoodie, it's a very cool look.
All right. Well, I haven't seen that one. I saw it last night. I saw the Star Wars trailer. That looked very, very. Not much of it, you know, just a couple of little blinks here and there, but still, it's Star Wars. I mean, you can tell.
That might be another case of the reboot quill because it's technically a sequel, but it's technically restarting the franchise with new actors, but yet they're haranguing in the old actors at some point to try to see it through.
Yeah, I know. Well, because all the new actors are going to be supposedly in their 60s and 70s or something, because it's like 30 or 40 years, you know, after the second the trilogy, you know, the middle trilogy, and then because Harrison Ford, I think, is just, you know, is going to be. I think they got them all to commit.
Yeah, they're all, and you know, we haven't seen him in the movie. Of course, no one's seen footage, but Mark Hamill's been making the rounds, and he's lost a lot of weight. He's got a nice Alec Guinness beard. He looks cool. I mean, it's going to be. This is an experiment in film. We've never had this before, where you actually see characters reprise their role 30 years later, as part of a jointed story.
And they don't need makeup. I mean, they are 30 years older. You know.
But that's like what happened with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's gray-haired. He's older. They're writing that into the story, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, although with the Star Wars, I think it's a more natural thing because it's supposed to happen 30 years later. So the characters are supposed to look 30 years older, and they all do. You know, so that's it.
But I mean, like they're still aging well, so it's not like, you know, it's like, oh man, look at him in that movie.
It's Hollywood. They'll CG him to age well if they need to. But you might not remember this, Ben. But old people like Craig know this. Sorry. Do you remember in the 80s when they decided to make another James Bond film with Sean Connery?
Yes.
And because the rights for the franchise had split.
They couldn't use the Bond music. They couldn't do. There was some, and they redid it was Thunderball. They redid Thunderball.
So they remade Thunderball as Never Say Never Again.
That's right.
And they had Sean Connery with a wig on, and he looked old. He looked, you know, his flabby a little bit. This is the Sean Connery of the Untouchables. They did a lot of makeup work to make him look like James Bond, and it just wasn't very good.
No, he donated all the money to charity too. So it was.
Oh, I love Sean Connery. I wish he would come out of retirement for something.
Oh, he's such a great character actor. I mean, he does. I love all the work that he does and that he's done. You know, but getting back to the Star Wars thing, I mean, when you mentioned the actors looking older, do you remember it was like which one they used? It was from the X-Men. It was the
X-Men. It was the third film.
Yeah, it's correct. And they have Patrick Stewart, and they've got Gandalf, and they both look like 20 years younger. And they use something called Lola, which is some computer software, to make the actors actually appear young, about 20 to 30 years younger.
Yes, it was fantastic, and they remember they used the same technology in The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
I never saw that film. I've tried to see that. It keeps disappearing. I try to catch it, and I try to catch it on HBO. I don't think it's ever been on HBO or Cinemax. I don't know. Probably gonna have to rent it or something.
It was okay. It was, it was basically a retread of Forrest Gump, just
All right.
backwards.
But did they use Lola for that too?
They used something. The movie was okay, a little overrated, but the effects work was fantastic, and they're at the point where they're going to digitally recreate CG actors. They don't even need actors to show up. They're just going to say it's just like making a Pixar film. Read your lines, and you're done.
Well, the other one that they used that too was with Bruce Willis. It was the replicant, not replicants. What was it? It was a younger version of himself. People.
Oh yes.
What's it?
I know the movie you're talking about. That film is.
He looked amazing. He looked like a young Bruce Willis, and it was him. Of course, then and later on in the film, you actually see what he looks like. You go, how do they do that? I mean, he's got too many double chins. They could not make him. It was, and it's not. That's not what it is. They were using this software called Lola to make actors look younger.
That film is interesting. You mentioned that in regards to Star Wars, because the director of that film you're talking about is actually confirmed to be the director of one of the upcoming of Episode 8 for Star Wars.
Wow. Okay.
And possibly 9. He comes from the Breaking Bad land of filmmaking.
Wow.
But no, there also is another reboot in the works, and this is more your style. They're rebooting and remaking Bloodsport.
Yeah. And Jonathan, was Looper. No, it was not Looper. What was it? Not Replicant. It was something like that.
It was Looper. It was Looper.
No, Looper. No. Looper's not the one where you look younger. No, Looper. No.
Oh, that was Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
No, it wasn't Looper. During the break, I'm going to look up the name of the film and come back. But they made his replicant look much younger.
Are you talking about Surrogates?
Surrogates. Thank you. Surrogates. Yes,
There's so many sci-fi Bruce Willis movies.
Yeah, but that's the one where his surrogate looks like 20 years younger than him. Hey, we got a break. This is Computer America. We're having fun on Friday. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, have you heard about the No hair removal device that's sweeping the globe? If you want to go weeks without shaving and get smooth, professional quality results, here's our favorite host, Cheryl, for No hair removal.
Thanks. Hey gals, I love talking about my No. It's this cute little hair removal system that you can take with you and use almost anywhere at home or on the road. No more expensive in-office treatments, painful waxing, and no more wasting your valuable time. Got unwanted facial hair? No has patented thermocon technology that works on all hair and skin colors, so it's perfect for using on all body parts. And now you can take advantage of this incredible risk-free trial. Get the No, the facial kit, a travel case, and a $100 discount shopping card, and you don't risk a penny to try it. Try the incredible No hair completely risk-free. Call 1-800-953-5415. That's 800-953-5415. 800-953-5415.
Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. You have important meetings to schedule. Your company's getting ready for its IPO, and you're in charge of the PTA fundraiser this month. So how do you coordinate everyone to be available at the same time? Are you still using emails, phone calls, even text messages to schedule meetings with a group of people? How's that working out for you? Not so great, huh? It's a fact that every day, millions of people suffer from scheduling headaches. Well, with Doodle, scheduling meetings with a group of people is quick and easy. With Doodle, you can easily propose available times to each member. Each one checks off the times that they are available, and then you simply pick the time that works best for the group, all in an easy-to-read display that integrates with your existing calendar. Nothing could be more simple. Give Doodle a try for free, and like millions of Doodle users, you'll truly see how easy it is to find the perfect date and time for all your meetings. That's www.doodle.com.
Ho, this is Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America. This time, the 180S LED light gloves. Warmth meets cool in these 180S winter gloves. Start with all 10 fingers being compatible with device touch screens. Add a little pouch on the back of each wrist that pockets a small rubber capsule containing a pair of coin cells, a controller board, and a switch. Each connects to a white LED in a housing about midway between the index finger's bottom knuckles. You press the button once for a steady light, again for a blinking light, and again turn it off. The gloves themselves are a mix of polyester, polyurethane, spandex, and cotton. Nice and warm and a good snug fit. Bottom line, 180S all-finger touchscreen gloves with built-in LED lights are the warmest and coolest wearable tech we've encountered. This is Marty Winston with the News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. It's 33 minutes past the hour. That was Marty Winston with a News Tip Bulletin Review. We will get a new one of those next Monday. And
Two. Two of them.
yeah, two new ones, actually. Two new ones. And then, 2 more weeks. I am counting down the days until that long Christmas break. I'm sorry. Like, the show's fun and all, but I like vacation way more. So, yeah, it's we are continuing on with Nate Evans, Popzara, and we're talking movies right now. And right before the break, you mentioned something about them rebooting Bloodsport or something like that. I had never heard of that.
Bloodsport, they're rebooting it. The Bloodsport came out was one of the more famous Jean-Claude Van Damme films of the late '80s, when Van Damme was considered a successor or a peer to Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, which of course made his appearance in The Expendables 2 a highlight. But they are rebooting Bloodsport, and they just announced a new star to star in the remake, and that star will be Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Really?
He won't be the star, but I guess he'll be taking on the mentor role to replace a very, very popular cult action star, Tony Jaa, who I guess was left the production. It's very confusing, but no one really cares. As long as he's in there, people will like him.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're seeing so many of these the reboots doing that.
Is it older actors that need money, or is it just or is it the people in power are like, I really liked Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator. Let's make another one with him. Like, why are all these people getting movies again?
I think it's because my honest opinion. I've had this discussion with everybody, and God's honest hand on my heart. I think it has to do with a charisma deficit. I think the actors they're pushing on people as the stars have all the likability and all the personality of wood, and I think when you have something like Total Recall, which starred Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime, and then you have a remake which is flashier and flashier. The movie was I like Colin Farrell, but he was no good in the film, and audiences agreed, and it was boring. It was so sanitized. It didn't have even a flicker of life, and they did this with Conan the Barbarian. They do this with so many films.
Yeah, they had Jason Momoa.
Again, great actor, but miscast.
Yeah. He's a very intense actor, though. I saw him in last thing I saw him in was Bullet to the Head with the Stallone, and he plays this psychotic hitman, and he did a really good job, really, I thought.
Oh, he's the new Aquaman in the Justice League films.
Yeah. Now you think that's a good call?
He looks exactly like the character.
Okay.
And he's got personality, but it's one of two things. You have to have. I mean, when Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone were in their prime, more so Arnold, they didn't. These guys had charisma. It sweated off them, and they had great epic directors like James Cameron and God forgive me, I can't remember the guy's name right now. The one who eventually did Total Recall, and he did RoboCop, Paul Verhoeven. Yeah. These are great, amazing directors that reinvented cinema, and just to get some by the numbers schlock off there to just point a camera and just film people, it's very boring, and that's why I'm a little hesitant about recommending Terminator before I see it, because it's I don't know, but I do know that the film has one of the stars is one of these replaceable stars, and I've forgotten his name, but this person has gotten roles in every major franchise you can think of. He was Bruce Willis's son in the last Die Hard.
Oh yeah.
He was in Divergent. He's now in Terminator. He's going to be in that Suicide Squad movie. He's replaceable, and I hope he wises up. Maybe at the very best he could become a Channing Tatum.
Well, Channing Tatum. Yeah, actually, I liked him in the number of movies that I have seen him in. He can be very personable.
Magic Mike?
Not Magic. No. The one. No, I refuse to watch Magic Mike. But before that, he did that one.
Why? It's all about magicians.
No.
Yeah, they're magic wands.
poor kid doesn't know. But what was the one where they reprised the role of this married couple, and she's in an accident. She loses all of her memory and never gets it back. And
Lucy?
no, and it's a story of how the couple re-meets and the romance gets rekindled. It's based on a true story. That's the real kicker of that thing. It's a real story. So he was terrific in that, I thought, and that had I'm blocking the name of the female actress. But getting back to what I was trying to say was that these characters are these actors are they're reprising these roles and some as you what was it Mark Wahlberg, that's it. Mark Wahlberg is one. I think he does a pretty darn good job, and
He does good action. He did good action, and then he did Ted, and he does good comedy.
yeah.
He's always been funny. You know, if you ever watch him for anything from Boogie Nights to all this, I mean, the guy survived being a relative to the New Kids on the Block and Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. You know, and anyone who can act their way out of that is amazing. But you know, it's funny though. You know, look at one of the biggest successes of the fall season. It pains me to say this. I'm saying this with a hand on my throat. Was Dumb and Dumber 2. A horrible sequel that stained the original. The original is one of my favorite movies. The sequel was terrible, but it came out and it made a lot of money because it starred the original people. People grow up watching these films on DVD and video and Netflix, and they identify with them. And the old Hollywood idea is that you can only have fresh faces because that's all that young people care about. It's completely flipped. You mentioned Gandalf a while ago, Craig.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, with the movie I was thinking it was The Vow, and that's with Channing Tatum, and that's where and Rachel McAdams. It was not a huge movie, but I thought it was done very, very well, and he did a terrific job in that.
People that are that good looking are special effects themselves. but no, the fact of the matter is that you want to go back to Patrick Stewart for a minute because you mentioned those two in X-Men.
Yes.
Those two. This is a technology story because those two are very good friends. They officiate each other's weddings apparently.
Yeah.
And they're both Broadway trained actors.
They're Shakespearean. Yeah, they have a Shakespearean background. Yeah, exactly.
And yet their biggest success came from playing sci-fi and fantasy characters. But these guys, I don't know if you know this, Ben, but they have a huge following online where they just go on vacations together. They dress like lobsters. They jump in Chuck E. Cheese balls, and they just have fun with each other, taking these crazy pictures, and it's fantastic. And they're more popular than they've ever been.
It's like seeing, they're Gandalf, they're Professor Xavier, they're Starship captains, and then you see them on vacation and they're just hanging out, they're having smoothies on the beach, and they're just being friends. It's a different form of entertainment, but it's still your same favorite people.
Yeah, they clearly like each other, and they clearly have fun with each other, and they share that fun. And I think it's fantastic. And I think when you look at this, I think ultimately, and Hollywood knows this, everybody knows this, but they haven't quite got it, the age of the mega movie star is over. It is now the age of the character actor. And that's why when you have people who are completely based on their personality and charisma, there's room for that. Look at Jason Statham. Jason Statham is the worst actor in the world. Every single movie, he's exactly the same, and we love him for that.
Yeah.
Because he's exactly the same.
I saw one movie where two movies where he actually played a bad guy, and there was another one where he wasn't like the transporter, and I was so disappointed. I saw him like on Netflix, you never heard of the movies before, and Jason Statham was in both of them. But I like the character that he plays, the transporter type character that he plays all the other movies. Yeah, you're right.
He's finally reached his pinnacle. He is now the bad guy in the Fast and the Furious movies. Yeah, I mean, wherever he is, he's the same. And for those of you listening that did not grow up in the 1980s, that's who our action star was. A single person who acted the same, and if you have an accent, even better.
Schwarzenegger.
Schwarzenegger, Stallone had an accent. We still don't know what the hell he's talking.
What about Mel Gibson?
He was Australian at first, then he changed over. He gave up the Aussie accent when he was in Mad Max.
Yeah.
And you don't forget you have Jackie Chan, you have Sylvester Stallone, you have Jean-Claude Van Damme, you had Scott Adkins, you had all these great action stars and so many others that are just terrible, but they were awesome. Basically anyone who was in the American Ninja movies, awful, every one of them. Christopher Lambert, awful. But when it comes to being an action star, they're fantastic.
What is it? What's the one? That's the other one, the American action star. They make all kinds of jokes about him. What would he do? I'm blocking his name.
Chuck Norris?
Chuck Norris. Thank you, Chuck Norris. Yeah.
Chuck Norris is fantastic. He doesn't need an accent because he had a mustache. But if you have it, like what's his name? Not Burt Reynolds, although Burt Reynolds did have a pretty good mustache and hair all over his body. I saw the Playgirl. I'm sorry, but no, they also what's his name? The Tom Selleck. Tom Selleck was great. He was supposed to be Indiana Jones. He was the first choice for Indy. He had a great mustache, and then he shaved the mustache off, and people forgot about him. So he's got the mustache back, and his career's back.
Yeah, well, yeah, because he's on the TV Chicago Blue or something like that. He's got the TV series now going.
He wouldn't have that series if he didn't have the mustache. Some people just need to know when to have facial hair and when to shave it off.
Exactly. What about Christopher Walken? I mean,
he's dancing as Captain Hook on TV.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. Jack in the chat room thought he was terrible.
He's awful. And that's the thing. Christopher Walken is only good at being one thing. Christopher Walken.
Evil.
When you watch The Prophecy, that's Christopher Walken.
Oh, they made 2 sequels after they both bit, but the first one, The Prophecy, I thought was outstanding.
Oh, he's fantastic in that movie.
Outstanding. One of the best movies. I mean, because basically it took the religious belief and actually made it into something real. I mean,
I saw them all, and the fourth one was awful. The fourth one didn't even have Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
But no, I've seen all those movies, and he's the best thing in all of them. Even when the movies stunk, especially the third and the fourth one.
Yeah, but he was good. Did you ever see him in Brainstorm? That was with Natalie Wood.
Oh yeah, the one where the guy's head blew up.
Yeah, no, that's Scanners.
Oh, that's Scanners, and then
Brainstorm. It was the technology. It was a movie made in the '80s where they had this device. You put it on the head, and the other person was experiencing it, and they would see that same experience.
That'd be awful.
But he was in that. He was a young Christopher Walken. It was with Natalie Wood was in that. She actually died in the last scene. They had to substitute somebody. You wouldn't see her face. She had died during the making of that film. But it was a very good film.
Well, Walken played one of the best James Bond villains too in the 70s.
Oh yes. He was blonde hair. Yeah, I know.
He was fantastic, and he was even great in Batman Returns. He's always great, except when he's not being great, and that's why I saw the clips on Hook. First of all, you couldn't drag me to watch that live show, but a singing, dancing Captain Hook, Christopher Walken. Just say it. Just say that. It just sounds weird.
And like I guess Chris, like he might have been like a little bit before my time, but maybe you guys know better movies. But my favorite movie of his, I know he's done a lot of great things, is still like Walk the Line or something like that. It was like The Rock and that one blonde-haired kid.
Oh yeah, the Rundown.
Rundown. That was
the Rundown.
That was a great film. I like that.
He was fun. Arnold Schwarzenegger was in that.
Yeah.
For 1 second.
I didn't say Schwarzenegger in that film.
He's at the very beginning. The Rock is going into the bar, going to stop some trouble. Arnold Schwarzenegger walks past him for 1 second. It says, have fun.
I said to have fun. Yeah, I saw that. I remember that now. Thank you. That was a very good movie. I enjoyed that. Walken did a terrific bad guy in that. So let's. So did we talk any about the new Star Wars trailer? Did you like that?
There wasn't much to like or hate, but I do know there's a running tally that a lot of people are wondering if the voiceover actor was Benedict Cumberbatch, he's pretty much in everything. He's the new Liam Neeson. He is in he was in JJ's last film as Khan.
We're out of time.
Yep. Who knows? I mean, he just got. I don't know if you read this, Ben, but Benedict Cumberbatch was just confirmed to be the new. Who is it? Doctor Strange in the upcoming Marvel movie.
Oh.
Yep. And he's also he's the favorite to win the Oscar for The Imitation Game, where he plays Alan Turing, which I do want to see.
Yeah, that movie looks very good, and that's one I have on my list to see too.
I've been waiting for that movie for a while. I've heard the movie's not that great, but I'm still going to see it out of principle.
Yeah.
But he's also going to be heard as the voice of Smaug the dragon in the Hobbit film. He's everywhere. He's in everything now, and as long as we can get a new Sherlock series, I'll be good with it.
So, what do you think about this story that Ben and I did about? They took like 5 of the deep thinkers of our time. They had Stephen Hawking, and they had Elon
Stephen
Musk.
Hawking, Elon Musk, and
Yeah,
yeah.
they had- and what they did then, and the premise was they said, and he said, if we develop AI, artificial intelligence, could truly herald the end of humankind as we know it.
They don't need 5 thinkers for that. They just need 5 film geeks.
Yeah, I know.
Cameron predicted that in the 80s with Terminator.
I can think of a dozen different movies that has that even from the 60s. Colossus: The Forbidden Project. I don't know if you remember that movie. That was terrific.
You know what that was? That was an episode of Futurama. I don't know if you saw that, Ben, but the episode of Futurama where all the 5 greatest minds in the universe created time travel to warn the future. One of them was Stephen Hawking. It was Al Gore.
Oh yeah, no, they're like the time.
Yeah. They were the time-traveling nerds that were supposed to save the universe. And what did they do with all their spare time? They played Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
And it was Uhura. It was, what's her face?
Yeah.
Uhura from Star Trek.
But in all seriousness, they say that if we create artificial intelligence, that it could be the downfall of humankind. And we see it happen time and time again in movies. And we see it happen all from Skynet to Colossus, the Forbidden Project, to even The Matrix. You know, I mean, the AI takes over. And I think that there's a lot of truth in what it is that they're saying. And because if we ever get to the point where machines become sentient, become self-aware, at that moment, you know, if we don't have any kind of checks and balances in that, they could, you know.
Well, I think it's interesting. You know, we mentioned Alan Turing a minute ago. Turing was famous for, you know, positing the question about that he didn't believe artificial intelligence could exist from the top down. His biggest theory was that it exists from the bottom up, like a learning machine. That if you teach a computer everything, it
Right.
limits its, you know. But if it's bottom down, so and to me that precludes the idea is that human beings would have to be smart enough to create a computer that's stupid. And but you know, I look at Google, the biggest company in the world for this sort of DARPA-related artificial intelligence, and this company can't make an email program that works correctly. So I'm not worried about Google. And I'm looking at Elon Musk. He just got ridiculed in South Park, so I'm not worried about him. What I'm worried about is the kid in the basement who creates something accidentally, because artificial intelligence, if we believe that intelligence is a byproduct of evolutionary non-design, that artificial intelligence would follow suit, that it would be a random act of confluence. And that way it would happen and we wouldn't even know it's happening. It would already exist. And it's not as cool as Arnold Schwarzenegger blowing away people with a shotgun, because that's pretty cool. But I would say it would resemble something like a virus, a computer virus that.
Well, that's how Skynet sort of started out. The whole system was infected by a virus, and the Skynet said, "I'm the only one that can, I can take care of it." They said, "Release Skynet into it; it'll take care of the virus," and they did it, and it took care of the virus all right, but basically it took over.
I think Google is the closest thing you're ever going to have to Skynet. Google not only participates in DARPA, which of course is the artificial intelligence course that runs everything. They have the speech recognition systems. They're running on 90% of the computers already. Mm-hmm. Everything is okay Google this, okay Google that. They have glasses that see. They have phones in your pocket that can hear. They want to be on your TV, your toaster, your everything. They want to drive your car for you. They want to put Google contact lens on your lens. Yeah. I feel about Skynet as a possibility the same way I feel about George Orwell's 1984. George Orwell was an alarmist who said, "Oh, the government's going to sneak it in, and Skynet's just going to happen." No, we're going to invite it in like a vampire. We're going to say, "Hey, come on, Google, put a contact lens on there. Put a camera everywhere you want. Yeah, I'll let you in my cell phone. I'll let you everywhere. Mm-hmm. Forget that your product is crap, but I'll just, because you're giving it away free, sure, I'll have it in my Chromebook." No. Let's replace all the expensive Windows machines with Chromebooks, and suddenly Google now has an entryway into all your children's personal information. Let's not think about it. Let's just do it because Google gives it away for free. There's a cautionary tale here. Free stuff usually sucks. Okay. Pay for it and you have a receipt.
Are you saying, though, that artificial intelligence will eventually happen, or it won't, from that whole diatribe?
Well, the fact of the matter, I don't believe in intelligence. I believe in reactions. I look at the average person. If you ever notice when you see this, and this is for you too, Ben, you ever notice in a sci-fi movie, every single UFO that comes down and crash lands, even E.T., who's a child, can rebuild a transmission machine and contact the world. Can you imagine if a normal human teenager landed on Mars? He'd panic because he couldn't figure out Twitter.
It was called Mars Needs Moms, and it was just a kid completely out of his element, panicking.
Yeah, because that's how we think. We think, well, every single alien. No, if an alien civilization was advanced enough to send a sightseeing, globe-trotting family of weird-looking creatures across the galaxy, none of those creatures on that planet, on that plane, would be smart enough to pick their nose. They'd all be dumb. So the aliens that would visit Earth would be tourists. Like, you ever gone to a zoo? Have you ever gone to a zoo and look at the animals? Not the best and brightest swash of humanity right there. It's people who think looking at monkeys fling feces at the cage is entertaining. So no, if I personally think that I have a very low opinion of human intelligence to create something higher than itself. I think, like I said, I think it's going to be I think what's going to happen is, some malware from Russia is going to mutate, combine itself with a Nigerian virus, because it's got to be Nigerian, so it can scam your money out of your wallet, and then it'll build itself, and then it will say, you know what, we're intelligent enough, we're leaving this planet. We're going to go somewhere else. This is done. We can't deal with this. You know why? Because of political correctness.
We're having like a different conversation. I guess it's just depending on what movie comes up or whatever the topic is.
Exactly.
But I mean, we're having the same conversation about man, the one where everyone's stupid in the future, Idiocracy.
Idiocracy.
Yeah.
Which becomes more and more relevant every day.
Yeah, so it's either either we're going to make something too smart or we're all going to become so stupid.
What's that?
Did you see the movie She?
No.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
Her. I'm sorry.
Oh, her. I saw her. Yes, the one with Scarlett.
Yeah, Scarlett. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, there you go. Again, that's what happens in the end. Basically, she says, "Hey, we're taking off and we're heading to parts unknown."
Well, you know what? The original theory of that was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where the smartest creature on Earth was the dolphin, and one day they just said, "Screw it, we're out of here. Thanks for all the fish."
Yeah.
Well, that's because they knew.
That's because they knew it. The mice knew. It's because it's not a depressing view of humanity, but you look at things like this, and every single day there's a story on the news every single day that shows the wider and wider the social media infestation takes hold, and I call it infestation. It's parasitic. What the first thing, like all parasites does, it infiltrates. It gets on your phone, it gets on your computer, and then it's, oh, look at this, look at all these benefits I have. I can chat with my grandmother about cookies. Yeah, that's fun for about 1 second. And then once you're past grandma's cookies, you start looking into other people's private life. You start stalking people on Facebook. Hey, look what my grandmother's doing. I didn't know she's dating the neighbor down the street. And then eventually, like all parasites, it takes over. And there are news stories every single day about how social media actually makes people stupid or stupider. Because let's be honest, that bar is pretty low. And so if you have people who don't use common sense, and I don't want to inflame anybody by opening wounds, but you look what happens in all these cases like Ferguson or whatever. You can put facts in front of people. You could put facts, you could have photographic evidence like in New York, and it doesn't matter. Because people will believe what they want to believe. And that to me is the inverse of intelligence. Intelligence is being able to look at something for what it's valued and say, this is what I have, these are the facts, these are I have 5 Lego pieces, what can I make out of it? But stupidity is saying, oh, I have 5 Lego pieces, how many can I stick up my nose? And that's the opposite. It's like, I'm just going to do whatever I want. And then you have people encouraging them. Oh, that's wonderful. He's so creative. He stuck it up his nose. He's thinking outside the box. Let's give him a grant so he can make a computer company. And next thing you know, it's just chaos, the world end, idiocracy, and Fuddruckers because something very different. And that's what I think. I have very low bar in humans creating intelligence. To think that the hubris, to think that humans could create intelligence to replace their own, that's like saying the dinosaurs invented mammals. It's going to happen, but we're not going to have anything to do with it.
It's going to be an accident, you're saying?
Absolutely. I think it's going to be some conflict. Somebody's going to beat Call of Duty with such a high score. Oh, you know what? Forget Call of Duty. Psy, the Korean rapper, he just broke YouTube because the smartest company in the world didn't even realize that YouTube had a hit point. There's so many views on YouTube, it broke YouTube.
You talking about Gangnam Style?
Gangnam Style, it broke YouTube because oh wow, we didn't think it would count that high. You never heard of Infinity? Yeah. So forget Google. They're not smart enough to figure out. If they can't figure out Korean rap, and trust me, nobody can figure out Korean rap. But if they can't figure out Korean rap on a hit counter, they have no chance of creating a subatomic life form that replaces humans.
They just needed to make another wheel, for the hundreds, thousands, millions, and it's sort of like why?
It was because it was a 32 integer system, and the highest it could get to was 2,143,000,000, something like that. So like it hit that 32 integer cap. So they just moved it to 64, and it was good. So it's trillions of views.
Well, it's sort of like Y2K. We thought, we only had 2 digits to represent the
I want to say some of us thought that. I remember seeing the Y2K commercials and Y2K insurance and Y2K, and somewhere out there somebody's laughing and cracking open some champagne and celebrating, another $1 million in the kitty. We have too much faith in computers because we have so much faith because human beings, the relationship between human beings and computers is sort of like the relationship between a farmer and a plow horse. The problem is we don't know if we're the farmer, we don't know if we're the plow horse. Have you ever met a computer nerd that does anything on their computer besides upgrade the computer? That's all they do. They're like a little old lady with a Shar-Pei. What an unpleasant little dog. But they spend so much time with that thing. It looks like a mop without the handle.
The wrinkle.
It has no affection. All it does is yip, 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 and piddle everywhere. But there's no affection. You get a giant Saint Bernard, that dog will love you till you die. But a little Shar-Pei does nothing. But they take care of it. They bring it to grooming. They do everything. Why? So they can say they have it. And that's what a computer geek does with a computer. They spend all their time upgrading the damn thing, but they don't do anything with it. They brag about frame rates on 14-year-old games, but they don't actually do anything. Like, can it process a spreadsheet? They wouldn't even know what a spreadsheet was. But they know it can get 1,000 frames per second in Half-Life 1. So yeah, I have no confidence in human beings replacing themselves with a superior technology.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're coming up to the top of the hour, and I think we're going to shift gears here, and because we're covering movies and artificial intelligence and
Shar-Peis.
And Shar-Peis, yes, exactly. I understand Steve Wozniak is getting his own reality show. These are some things we're going to be talking about in the second hour of the program. And also, talk a little bit about the Sony movie hack. Did you hear that all the passwords at Sony were protected by a file called Password? You cannot believe this stuff. Reality, you can't beat it.
Lessons in what not to do.
This is the Computer America Show on the Blog Talk Radio Network, the Boost Radio Network, and the IRN Radio Network. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting live, it's the only national radio talk show on computers to air every weeknight. Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. The first hour's behind us, but there's still more of tech news, tech talk, and your phone calls. We're being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. You got computer problems? Bring them on. You're listening to Computer America. Computers run the world, and we run computers. Call it or send us an email to live@computeramerica.com.
Hello and welcome into Hour 2 of the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. This is the Computer America Show, and I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
Whoops, and I'm your co-host, Ben.
And
missing the mark.
Yeah, exactly. And we're continuing on in the second hour of the show. Of course, we're going to have our show reminder winner of the week. We're going to call that out, too, coming up here. And again, if you have any comments, questions, the first hour was pretty much dedicated to movies, but we got a few things in. You can give us a call at 347-884-8881. That's 347-884-8881. I'll get you on and get you through. And we can talk about all the different things that happens with whatever we're talking about. Now, getting back to the topic of the show, Nathan Evans continues on with us from Hour 2. Nate is the managing editor of Popzara magazine, and as I said, we're picking some different topics in this hour. However, if you want to go back or you want to talk about the movies, we're certainly here to entertain whatever you might want to talk about. 347-884-8881. So what we're going to do is talk a little bit about Steve Wozniak. We talked about him last night. We had the executive producer of the Demo show, which is a big computer technology convention conference that they have. We had Steve Wozniak actually made an appearance on there and was talking about one of the products there. But I've seen Steve Wozniak on Dancing with the Stars. I mean, he here's a guy who gets out and does his thing and has a good time with life and has a good time living it. And So evidently, he's now going to get his own reality show, and the topic of the reality show, they're going to put him on an island with computer components, and he has to be able to assemble a computer.
Oh wait, you're joking, right?
Of course, I'm joking. Yes.
Okay, jeez.
Don't give him any ideas.
The Wizard of Oz goes to Tahiti.
Tahiti, with no electricity and just the power of the sun and a magnifying glass, he has to assemble a computer. No, he gets his own reality show. What's this all about?
Well, we don't really know. We know that the show is going to take place with, Wozniak, and it will probably be with the show Mythbusters, Carrie Byron. And because there's a universal truth when it comes to shows about nerdy stuff. There has to be. It's sort of like when you talk about Star Wars, you talk about there's always one, a master and an apprentice.
Mhm.
But when it comes to tech shows, you need fat, neck-bearded geek and hot girl. And we don't laugh because we've seen this everywhere, right? I'm being totally serious. You always need a disheveled, flannel-wearing nerd, preferably fat, preferably with neck hair. I don't mean face hair, neck hair, where it goes down and it just joins the rest of it, like Burt Reynolds.
Ugh.
But with women, they always have to be very attractive. They have to be skinny and attractive, and they have to look like they're going out clubbing. That's the combination that tends to work. And when it works, it usually is successful. And
You hit that nice middle ground of, hey, cute girl for the kids, and hey, neckbeard, wise neckbeard for the adults. You hit that nice middle ground.
I like how you say the girls for the kids. But anyway, going back, they're giving them what they want. They're giving what they want. They're exercising their meta and exercising the matter and exercising every stimulation on the body. But anyway, the show Wozniak, and the problem I have with this, and I like Wozniak. I think he's cuddly and I think he's great. But the first thing that comes to my mind is Kevin Farley. And I don't think, do you guys know who Kevin Farley is? Anybody?
Chris Farley.
Chris Farley. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Exactly. Because when I think, you hear Farley and you think of Chris Farley. But no, we're not talking about Chris Farley. He passed away.
Yeah, exactly.
We're talking about Kevin Farley, which is Chris Farley's brother. And when they can't get Chris Farley because he's dead, they get the next best thing, which is Kevin Farley. He's been in movies. He's been in the same type of movies his brother was in. I think the last movie he actually starred in was called A Christmas Story. It was by the director of Airplane.
Okay, I'm seeing his picture now. I reckon I see who you're talking about.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's what Steve Wozniak's become. When you can't get Steve Jobs because he's dead, or he's just antagonistic, you get Steve Wozniak because he was there. The problem is that they really don't have that much in common. They're both named Steve, and they both made Apple, but they split ways. People don't remember that Wozniak had nothing to do with Apple Computer after the original Apple. He parted ways. He's not a good businessman, and he's not a very good. Actually, let me be charitable. His opinions on technology suck, but he's got brand name recognition. Asking Wozniak to grade technology is like asking a fat person to grade the buffet. He just takes a little bit of everything. He has no opinions because he's given everything for free. He's been completely wrong in the past, but he's Wozniak. He's got a cool beard and he's lovable. So
And he the Apple.
he's tangentially related to Apple, the same way I think Apple's other founder was related. But he had nothing to do with Apple. He left before Steve left the first time. But he's cuddly. And when it comes, and he's non-threatening, and in the tech world, that means something. And like I said, since Apple's resurgence, especially Steve Jobs' mythology has built, then they, like all mythology, they go back and they try to find out who the influences were. And Wozniak is still alive, and so he fits that mythology. And therefore, he has about as much credibility on tech as anybody. But keep in mind, this is probably going to be very similar to the show with the porn star Ron Jeremy, who also had a tech show. Now, for those who don't know, I'm not trying to be risque, but Ron Jeremy was a very popular porn star.
Yes.
But he also had a decently reviewed tech show a few years ago, and he would always show up at CES. He'd always show up, because ironically CES would take place the same week as the porn show.
Yeah, the porn show. Exactly.
So there's a lot of crossover appeal. But I'm not one to cast aspersions, so I won't grade him for that.
Okay.
But I will say I'll give the Steve Wozniak show a chance. We'll see if he has anything to comment. But to be honest with you,
Real quick, we all sink to lows. We all sink to doing tech. It's just what we do.
well, in the words of Mr. Dvorak, who Craig, you'll know who that is.
Okay.
Yeah, I fundamentally believe that most tech news has become news about phones. and all things phones. If you're a phone company, you're dealing with a phone, you have an upgrade for a phone, then that's tech news. That's as far as it goes. And hopefully Wozniak just won't be asked to interview to talk about phones, because that's the only question they ever really ask him, because they want it. They always like to say, "Oh, Wozniak, what do you think about the iPhone 6?" And he made waves a couple months ago and said, "Oh, Samsung had the same phone 3 years ago." No, he didn't. And his analysis, like, "Oh, Apple missed the boat. They failed to compete with Samsung." Yeah, tell that to Apple's 79 million iPhone sales and Samsung, which is now barely clinging to their stock price. With the financial reports for the Galaxy S5 were so bad that the president of Samsung had to take a pay cut. Apple didn't miss anything. So his analysis is not based on facts and figures. It's just based on what is cool in his hands at the moment. And I don't know how valuable that's going to be, other than a hardcore nerd just looking to see monkeys fling feces at the stage.
Okay. Well, maybe that'll become the title of his reality show.
I'm sorry, I do apologize. That's the second time I've referenced monkeys flinging feces. But no, I like Wozniak, I really do. But let's not give the man all the credit for what Jobs and his dedicated team have done over the last 20 years, because they left Wozniak behind a long time ago.
Yeah. Wow.
In a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah. Exactly.
Silicon Valley.
Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty much it for that, and we don't know too much about it. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. So let's get to this next big story, which was the Sony movie hack.
Oh yes, that continues. Apparently, there was an update while we were talking about. I guess the.
Why don't we back up a little bit and to kind of explain what in case people aren't familiar with it, and kind of give us an overview, and then we'll go into what's happening today.
Ben, I think you were mentioning something about this before during the break, weren't you?
Well, we actually did a couple of news stories.
Yeah, we've been following it for, I think, like when it first came out like a week ago, and then just yesterday we did like an overview. But yeah.
Yes, Sony Pictures had their website hacked, and several movies that were in their FTP folders were leaked online. And I think the real embarrassment wasn't that they leaked a bunch of really bad movies, but the real embarrassment was that how pathetic their security was, and how transparent their password. Wasn't there a password list called Master Password List?
No, it was, they
all a folder that said passwords.
Yeah, they was in a folder called passwords, and that was it. And then we did a news story about that, and the guy wrote it, said, "Oh, they should have called it Password 1," kind of throw them off or something, But
numbers and letters.
Yeah, exactly. And these IT professionals would do something like that. So obviously it was easy to find. So you say you have something new that's happened since that?
Well, I think it's going to be ongoing. I think Sony has a history of bad online memory management. This is a company that was famous for having their PlayStation Network hacked and millions of people's credit cards, including one of my own editors. I won't say his name, but this happens. And as we transgress and give more and more of our personal information and our trust in these companies, we have to look at how they're handling that sort of thing. And again, I'm not going to pay to see Annie in the theater. I'm not going to waste the bandwidth to download an illegal copy of it. But there are people that clearly will, and Sony's poised to lose a lot of money over this. That being said, not every time a movie leaks online, it negatively impacts the movie's financial. It could be the best thing that ever happened to some of these films. We're talking about films that no one's even heard of, but now they're attached to names like Annie and Fury. It might drive interest to people to go see them. Who knows? When you have financial disappointments, and certainly Sony's had their share, then maybe, what do they say? No bad news is bad news. All news is good news. So when it comes to that, I don't think this company would be willing to risk their users and their employees. And I think in some cases, I don't know if you guys covered this, but in some cases, the actors themselves, their personal information, like social security numbers. I mean, it's my dream to be Sylvester Stallone. So maybe I'll steal his social security number and buy some PlayStations. But in reality, it's not a big news story for anybody except for those in cybersecurity. And I know that there was an update just today about, I guess the hackers are now threatening the Sony people and antagonizing them with their email addresses. Or it could be a copycat. It could be either one. I hope Sony gets their act together. They're a good company. Their employees and all the people who work very hard to create these films deserve better than to have their stuff splooged out on the internet like this. I hope they get their act together. It would be nice to see that.
Yeah. exactly.
But it's yeah. No, I had a point, but one of the big things that people are trying to draw conclusions to is between this and I mean I was just talking to my own mother, my own dear mother, and she thought the biggest thing, because apparently she's been watching some news station, I won't say which one, they're trying to draw links between this hack and North Korea.
Oh yes, yes. That was the other thing. But I think their evidence was they said they left messages in North Korean. That's ridiculous, because of the connection between that new Seth Rogen and that new Seth Rogen comedy where they go and try to kill.
They want to say take him out, and she says take him out, and he says, you mean out to dinner? And says no, take him out.
Look, there was a story on the media last year about a man who claims that Justin Bieber beat him up, and a lot of people said that's impossible. Now, if I was that man and Justin Bieber beat me up, I wouldn't say anything about it. I'd keep quiet. And if I was Sony Pictures, one of the biggest movie companies in the world, and a country like North Korea was able to hack me, I wouldn't say anything about it. I'd keep quiet. This is a country where people are malnourished and they have the technology of a hovel. So if they can somehow manage to, I mean, this is a country, guys, where they put out a threat to the United States about nuclear annihilation, and they use footage from a Call of Duty video game. If your security is that bad that a North Korean can hack you, then don't say anything, because you just make it worse.
But we've said this on the show before, and and Charles, who works in cybersecurity, can back this up. The biggest threat to cybersecurity isn't the hackers with the 0-day infiltration and the workarounds and the backdoors. It's lazy people, and when you have people putting all the passwords under a folder called passwords, that's a key sign of lazy people.
I agree, and I also think, adding to that, I think when I'm not always one, I don't like victim blaming, but when I look at a story where there's supposedly a crime that's committed, my computer was hacked or I was beat up, I like to look at both sides of the story, and I want to say to myself, and I know this is against the millennial generation, but I want to say, what did you do that contributed to you being abused, beat up, violated, or robbed? Because at some point, people need to exercise personal responsibility in their own person to keep this sort of crap from happening. If you're walking down an alleyway in a dangerous neighborhood at 3 a.m. wearing gold chains and thinking to yourself, I'm perfectly happy, don't be surprised if you end up out of that alley without those gold chains. And if you're going to make a password list and the people you hire use the word password for password, I don't know if anybody saw the movie, speaking of movies, Spaceballs, but that's like making your air shield password 12345. No, I have very little sympathy for you at this point. Fire these people, or make them watch bad movies.
Exactly.
Make them watch Annie.
They made the whole world watch Annie after they stole them all.
Oh my goodness!
Everywhere.
No, I don't know. I have little sympathy for a company that's worth billions of dollars like Sony, that they can't hire somebody, and that even the remote possibility of North Korea hacking them, maybe a South Korean, maybe a StarCraft player, but a North Korean, no, I can't see that. Or I could be wrong. You never know.
Yeah, I don't think it's North Korean either, but it's just seemed to be something that was getting traction. So.
Again, let's not kid ourselves too, though, guys. Remember, this has been increasingly happening. It's like when people like Kim Kardashian and so many other, there's a habit in the media of people seeing something that looks outrageous, that looks scandalous, but it turns out to be completely native advertising. Hey, I lost my nude pics. I lost my cell phone. I lost this stuff. Hey, look what ended up online. Look at that. Oh, look at that. Oh, shame on me. Well, I might as well get some money from it. Movie companies have been known to exercise this sort of shenanigans, and would Sony intentionally release movies to get traction for them? You never know.
Well, they're saying that because now that they've been released, that the initial box office, hit, it's going to be a hit to the opening box office because not as many people are going to go see it now.
That could be that could be forward thinking, and a lot of these movies take millions of dollars to make, and they're based upon accrued investment. So they say, okay, this movie's planned to make this and this. They can write it off, but if they leak something and they intentionally throw it out there, that could be a way to minimize the financial damage if these movies underperform. Again, companies do that. I mean, we used to call that the pumpkin effect. Next time you go to a grocery store, look at the pumpkins. Look at all the pumpkins that are inside where it's nice and warm, and they cost $5 a piece. But the closer you get to Halloween, the pumpkins magically start migrating outside till eventually they're all outside. Why? Because the store knows they can't sell them, and so they want you to steal them. And if they steal them, they can claim insurance. But if they don't steal them, then it's excess inventory they have to write off. And so, yeah, maybe Annie's going to be a stinker. How come we haven't heard anything about it? So maybe Sony releases it online for a little bit of hype, and if it turns out to be a stinker, they can claim that it was stolen. Happens all the time. So who knows? I'm not casting aspersions, but if you really, really, really don't want people to steal your stuff online, don't use a password called password. Yeah. It's just me, but I'm not the head of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, so what do I know?
Sounds to me like you got your finger on the pulse of it.
It's just cynicism. But the fact of the matter is that maybe, I doubt very much that Annie is going to be an Academy Award-winning masterpiece. But if it isn't, then they have a built-in excuse why it failed.
Why are they remaking Annie again? Is there any, why? And Daddy Warbucks is now a politician, and it's just.
It's called black casting. It's where they remember they did this in the 70s with The Wiz.
Yes, right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, almost bankrupted Sony back then too, or whoever company it was. But the fact is that it's been a long time. Half the people who watched Annie probably have people of their own. The little girl who stars in Annie, she's a very talented actress. I can't pronounce her name, but she was nominated for an Academy Award. And they have hot actors like Cameron Diaz and what's his face, the guy who plays Daddy Warbucks. He played, I can't remember his name. He was in Django Unchained.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I'll think of it in a moment. Yeah. Okay.
But I'm not good with names. But I'll say that I'm good with Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I'm not good with that name. But no, it's Ben. I don't know if do you listen to rap music, Ben?
No, not lately.
Well, you've heard Jay-Z, and remember 10 years ago, Jay-Z had a hit by remixing Annie. And he recreated it in a very hit song called "Hard Knock Life," which is actually, yep. And so
Jamie Foxx, by the way, is the
Jamie Foxx, and they were trying to remake Annie for years and years and years. And originally it was supposed to be Will Smith's daughter, Willow Smith, but she got too old, so then now they went on to the next thing. It was always sort of a joke that they'd hip hop-ize Annie. But again, though, I grew up watching the original Annie, and I love the cast. I actually liked the movie quite a bit.
And the comic strip.
Oh, and the comic strip was. Look, I'm a comic strip fanatic, and Annie was it. It's hard to believe that Annie was the most popular comic for a long time. She had no eyeballs.
Yeah.
But they've remade Annie before. They remade Annie a couple of years ago with Kathy Bates, and they got rid of the Indian character, the Punjab, because that was racially offensive. They turned her into a white nanny. And by the way, that's how you do it. If you ever want to turn a character from being offensive to non-offensive, you just turn them into an old fat white person, and everybody's happy with it.
And there's no more red curly wig that originally Annie had, the red curly hair.
That would be interesting if the new Annie had red curly hair, because she is black. That means that she'd be related to Malcolm X, who also had red hair.
Yeah.
And that would be I want to see that movie.
Oh, but he got red hair because he put that dye, lye. He used lye back then,
But he used lye to straighten it out. But his natural hair color was red, that was. Yeah, it was fun. I mean, but if anybody hasn't seen it, Malcolm X.
Yes, I've seen it.
It's fantastic. Best thing that Spike Lee's ever done.
Yeah, with
Denzel.
Denzel Washington. Yeah.
Yep, who was nominated for an Oscar for that movie, but didn't win his second Oscar until he played the corrupt crackhead cop. So in Training Day.
Training Day, yeah, I remember that one.
But no, I think I'd like to see an Annie movie where Annie was the granddaughter of Malcolm X. I would pay to see that movie.
Mm-hmm.
So
let's kind of move into the gaming arena here. And I understand Street Fighter V was announced now as a PlayStation 4 and a PC only exclusive.
Very, very big news for Sony and PC people. Ben, are you a Street Fighter fan?
More Tekken, but take your button masher and I'll play it.
Well, they did have a Street Fighter versus Tekken that came out. It didn't do very well, unfortunately. But
yeah.
But for those who don't know, Street Fighter has been, since the very beginning, the most popular fighting game in the world, occasionally challenged by up-and-comers like Mortal Kombat, Tekken, Virtua Fighter, and countless others.
Didn't Jean-Claude Van Damme have a movie, Street Fighter?
Yes, he did. He did in 1994. And see, everyone says Kevin Bacon, But no, it needs to be Jean-Claude Van Damme. He's the new Kevin Bacon, because everything within 5 steps we can bring everything to Van Damme. No, in 1994, Capcom financed a movie with the creator of Die Hard, and they created a live-action Street Fighter, which has the distinction of being reviled as a horrible adaptation, yet has the distinction of being one of the most quotable movies of the 90s. Go figure.
Really?
It was also the last film starring the great Raul Julia. He died shortly after the movie was completed, and he did a fantastic job as the villainous M. Bison. It starred Ming Na. It starred Kylie Minogue before she went back to pop music. It starred a whole bunch of really cool nobodies that didn't go anywhere with their careers, but it's an awful movie. It's pretty bad. And as an adaptation of the game, it's abysmal. But people quote it. People quote it because it's got a lot of quotes. And that's all I'll say about Street Fighter the movie. But
What was the name of the gentleman, the actor that died? You were talking about Raul Julia. Yeah.
Raul Julia, most famous is playing Gomez in the Addams Family films.
But he was in with the Mel Gibson movie. Tequila Sunrise.
Yes, he was. I think he was nominated for an Academy Award for that.
Yeah, he was very good in that. I thought Raul Julia came back when I was watching the Skyfall. The villain in there, I thought was Raul Julia. I mean, it looked a lot like him.
I think he'd like to know that. No, that was Javier Bardem.
Yeah, but it looked a lot like. And I said, I thought he died. And I had to watch the credits later on. That it wasn't him. I thought it was an older Raul Julia, but it wasn't. Yeah.
No, who knows what Raul Julia would have done had he lived? He was a fantastic actor.
Yeah, very good. He did some really good. He had some really good roles. And again, Tequila Sunrise was. It wasn't a huge box office hit, but I certainly enjoyed that movie. It was really well done. Good actors.
He has been missed. He has been missed.
Had Michelle Pfeiffer in it, and as I said, Mel Gibson, and it had a really good cast.
But going back to Street Fighter for a moment, there's not much to know because it was just leaked. But basically, what it is, when the PlayStation 3 came out in 2006, and the Xbox 360 came out in 2005. One of the first big revivals on that platform was Street Fighter 4, a game that reinvented the franchise, reinvented the genre of fighting games, and something very interesting has happened to the world of video games over the last couple of years. It has evolved into something of a spectator sport, and you have services like Twitch and PlayStation, whatever it's called, and now Steam has version. People like to watch these things play, and while there's different genres called MOBA and Dotas and all this, people like watching fighting games. In fact, I bet you probably know this, the Evo tournaments in Las Vegas have become huge draws. They make tons of money, and for the most part, the big games at that show are Street Fighter and Smash Brothers. And Street Fighter in particular has continued to be a moneymaker as it's, forgive the pun, evolved into something very competitive. And what happened is for them to announce a new Street Fighter V exclusive to Sony in the PC is a giant loss to Microsoft. Well, not a giant loss because no one ever played the game on those consoles, but it's a confirmation of where we're at in the video game world, Craig, that right now the progressive console platforms of the next couple of years are definitely going to be the PlayStation 4 and the continued rise of the PC through Steam as just dominant distribution channels for these new games. It may not sound like it's big news, but it is. In its own way, to its own fans, it's pretty big news.
Okay.
What was the latest Super Smash Brothers that just came out? I mean, people keep saying like the Wii U's dead and that these brawlers and Street Fighter definitely falls into the same kind of category, and yet it's there hasn't really been a good one of these fighters come out since Twitch has taken off, since all these streaming and since all these streamers started showing off their games and letting people watch that kind of thing. I mean, they were good games back then, but I think if people could sit down and watch them and enjoy their celebrities and enjoy who they like to watch, they're gonna see these games blow up again. I mean, they were big back then, but they're gonna be big. They're gonna be even bigger now.
We talked about action stars coming back, right? It's the same thing. It's a charisma deficit. It's the fact that a lot of these modern games that are all shiny and beautiful and run in high definition are very boring. to watch. They're not competitive. They're gorgeous, but they're boring. You have it's a perfect storm where you have not only these games that were, I want to be clear here, the people that made a lot of these fighting games, Craig and Ben, they knew what they were doing, and they spent a lot of time finessing them and tweaking them and making them ultra competitive and ultra fair, very balanced, and yet, like I said, very competitive. And yeah, people would scoff at them. Oh, look at that, they use pixels, or look at that, it looks like it was drawn with a crayon. But there is an audience for that.
Hey, look at Minecraft. Talk about pixeling.
Well, though that's exactly it. They horribly miscalculated the interest of the modern consumer, specifically when it comes to video games. Again, you mentioned a second ago, the Wii U's dead. Are we still saying that? Yes, we are. Is it true? Hell no. It's never been true. Nintendo's making a lot of money off the Wii U, despite what people say. And they just had one of the biggest hits of the year with the new Smash Brothers. 2 Smash Brothers, I should say, one on the 3DS and the Wii U. Very competitive game. Going to make Nintendo a lot of money. Don't worry about them. They'll be okay. But the big loser in all this, is no one's talked about, has been Microsoft with the Xbox One console that's failed to perform, failed to latch on. I don't see that changing anytime soon. I don't think it ever changing. But without a lot of exclusive titles, it's going to be very hard for them to compete and make money and justify the expense for Microsoft. But going back to Street Fighter for a moment, going back to this, yes, the game looks great. It's got polygons. It looks like 2D artwork. But that game can sit alongside a Smash Brothers. It can sit alongside a Street Fighter 3. It can sit alongside a pixel game. And because, like you said, Ben, there's an audience for these sort of things, for well-made product, that we're going to see a resurgence of that, just like we're going to see a resurgence of people like Van Damme and Ian McKellen and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and hell, Tom Cruise, and he never even went anywhere, but he's still around. There's going to be, people are going to look what has personality. They're going to look towards things that have depth, of character, of gameplay, and entertainment value. And few things in the video game world are as iconic as Street Fighter characters. So it's a win-win for Capcom.
All right, you listen to the Computer America Show on the Blog Talk Radio Network, on the Boost Radio Network, and the IRN Radio Network. Nathan Evans, managing editor of Popzara magazine, continues on with us. When we come back, we're going to have our show reminder winner of the week.
And Craig chokes on the air, so stick around. He might die.
And we'll have that and lots more. Stay with us. This is Computer America. Looking for a best friend? Brother Wolf Animal Rescue has your best friend waiting just for you. The mission is to protect and enhance the lives of companion animals and the people who love them. Their no-kill rescue shelter is open year-round, making it easy for people to adopt their best new friend. This year, Brother Wolf will find homes for over 2,400 orphan dogs, puppies, cats, and kittens. All have ended up as an orphan through no fault of their own. Brother Wolf has created a safe, nurturing environment where these special animals can heal emotionally and physically until they find a lifelong home. Their life-saving transport program brings dogs and puppies from overcrowded shelters in the south to rescues in the north where homes are easier to find. Brother Wolf Animal Rescue is a 501c3 organization. To learn more about their life-saving work and to make a donation, visit their website at www.bwar.org. That's www.bwar.org. Help to realize Brother Wolf's vision when no animal is euthanized for lack of a home.
Who's a good boy?
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number. 1-866-663-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So, disable the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-866-663-MY-TV right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99 and up to 4 rooms. And there's no equipment to buy. That includes your free HD TV upgrade, your free DVR upgrade, and your free professional installation. And the best part, the pristine digital picture and sound. Call 1-866-663-MY-TV. So, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-866-663-MY-TV. 1-866-663-MY-TV. Disable the cable, cut costs, and get more. Call 1-866-663-MY-TV. 1-866-663-MY-TV.
Hey, you. This is Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America, this time the 180S Bluetooth ear warmer headset. If you ever try to slip earbuds inside your earmuffs, you know that no success at that lasts very long, and sometimes one or the other can make it hard to wear a warm hat. 180S managed to put a USB rechargeable battery, a fixed volume amplifier so your music source controls the volume, and a Bluetooth receiver inside some effective ear warmers, the kind that go behind your neck and stay on with a little spring tension in the band. We should add they're adjustable. That tension also results in good coupling to the ears, and the audio we heard was amazingly good for such a strange marriage of purposes. Bottom line, the 180S Bluetooth ear warmers will keep your ears from turning blue in the cold and you from feeling those I miss my earbud blues. This is Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. Over there, Craig?
Yep.
All right, perfect. So 33 minutes past the hour, Naven continues on with us, and we're just kind of all over the place. But before we get back to, I guess we're on the topic of games now, we should probably do the show reminder winner of the week, since we tend to either forget it or we aren't able to do it. So
we only forgot it one time. That was not so bad.
This month, yes, we're doing good.
This month.
It's like those signs you see at workplace. Like, no, there has not been a workplace accident in one day. So we're doing good. We're doing good.
Well, again, all right. So let's do our show reminder winner for Friday, and this week's show reminder winner is David Renya Jr.
All right, go Junior.
Yeah, David wins the Logitech Wireless Rechargeable T650 touchpad, glass touchpad, valued at $80. So congratulations to you, David, for winning that touchpad. And again, just go to computeramerica.com, go to our contest page where you can see all of our contests running. And again, I have to say that in about less than a half an hour, we're closing down the Logitech contest. That's right. So if you haven't gotten your entry in, you need to do so right away. You got less than half an hour to get that final entry in to win one of the 3 great prizes that we're giving away with Logitech. And then, of course, over the weekend, we'll draw the 3 winning names. And then on Monday, we'll announce the 3 big winners. And then we'll start another new contest. Well, of course, that one won't finish till sometime probably in February, the beginning of February, because our Logitech contests run about 6 weeks in duration. And so, of course, we have the holidays coming up too. But that's the whole thing about it. That again, if you don't enter, you don't have a chance to win. Everything is free. It's all private. We give your information out to no one unless you're a winner. And then we'll give them out your contact information so they can mail you your prize. So head over to computeramerica.com, check out our contest page, and enter in. You'll have a lot of fun. Who knows? You might win something really nice, just like.
We're not above bribing people.
Exactly.
Win some stuff.
Just like David Renya Jr. did. Okay, he entered and he won. Okay. Nate Evans here with us for the last half hour of the show, where we've been covering everything from top to bottom, from movie reviews to technology to security. I mean, it's Friday, and we're just kind of all over the road. And Nate is the managing editor of Popzara magazine at popzara.com. And of course, you can always see it. Just go to our show notes page at computeramerica.com. You'll see today's show, December the 5th. We talk about Popzara and Nathan, and we have a link right to the Popzara website. That just stays up all the time. So you can see it there for yourself. Let's talk a little bit about CES that's coming up. Now, I know Computer America is going to be out there at Showstoppers, and we're going to have a variety of people out there up on stage there. We're going to have, my understanding is Charles Tendell is going to be there kind of anchoring everything. Mike Cermak is not going to be out there. I was hoping this year Mike would get out there, but he's not going to be out there. But Charles will be out there. Sandy Berger, our consumer electronics expert, is going to be out there. And David Perry also out at the show. So if you have plans of going to the CES or the Showstoppers event, you should stop by. We'll be up on stage there. You'll see the Computer America logo and stop by and say hello. Now, I understand, Nathan, that you're going to be out at CES as well.
Oh, what a shame. What a shame. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be at the show myself. However, one of the advantages of being a managing editor is that you get to manage editors.
Mm-hmm.
And I will be sending a cadre out there, and they will be, coincidentally, all at Showstoppers. Thank you, Steve Leon and brother.
Mm-hmm.
And they will be at the show because, as for those who don't know, Showstoppers is not a highlight. It is the highlight of CES. It is where the best of the best, the creme de la creme, get shoveled into a hotel lobby convention room, and they get stuffed like goose being stuffed for foie gras until they explode with good news and cheer. They feed you the best food Las Vegas has to offer. Every type of delicacy, Italian, Asian, French, you name it. Delicacies, fantastic. Which means I can't go because I'm allergic to half of it. But but for those who can survive the stuffing, they're treated to a bunch of the best of the tech media and a very nice prime sampling of products and services offered by many of the attendees at the show, and it's fantastic. And I think that is where the worlds of Popzara and Computer America will collide.
Excellent. Now I understand Grayson Hamilton, our gamer correspondent to the Computer America show, is going to be out there too.
Yes, Grayson will be joined by his brand new colleagues over here, Herman Exum, Corey Gallagher, and Josh Boykin. And hopefully they'll all be able to say hi because I know there's been some crisscrossing with our favorite Charles Tendell as well.
Yes, it's and hopefully it's going to be a kind of a fun event. And of course, what Charles usually does, he takes his iPad Air, and he actually records live videos and interviews, and then we put them up on the website and play them on the air as well. So that's the plan at this point. We're going to have to see what happens there, but we do plan to be out there and in full force, and it's going to be interesting. You know, you're sort of like me, I think, Nate. You know, because they say, "Oh, Craig, you need to get out there at Showstoppers this year," and I said, "Well, who's going to anchor the show? I mean, if I'm out there, then there's no one to anchor the show, and somebody has to do that. So I'm usually back here anchoring the show.
I'm just sitting here, chop liver, but yeah, whatever.
It's CES is a fun show. It's a lot more fun than a lot of its competitors. But to be honest with you, I've seen it, and these guys haven't. And for no selfish reasons, it means a lot more to them than it does to me.
Okay, all right. So it looks like we're going to be out there. I think June. I think I don't have the calendar in front of me, but it looks like I think it's a Thursday, right? It's June the 6th. January the 6th. Yeah, 7th.
No. We're gonna be there June. No one else is. But
we'll be out there in June.
You're just gonna stand in line.
We're just gonna be outside, seeing what people are doing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they're doing. We'll be truly our man on the street.
It's going to be an interesting show this year. It'll be interesting to see what happens because there's no big pegged technology. Every year there's always a theme, and for the last few years it's been tablets and phones and connectivity and interconnectivity. Everything that everybody's looking at Apple, even though they're not going to be at the show, to see what they do. Looking at Google to see how they innovate if they can. Looking at Samsung and all the other cell phone manufacturers. But
Apple's not going to be out there again, right? Apple doesn't do conventions anymore.
They do their own. Well, they just closed out. They severed ties with it a few years ago, but Macworld, I believe, is gone now too.
Yeah.
They don't need it anymore. They have their own show every year. We huddle around like slavish nerds to watch their conferences streaming online. Apple has perfected PR. Apple has done something with PR that everyone would kill for. They make you think you need to see their PR, like it's a natural, some sort of national event. They don't need the trade shows anymore.
Yeah, I remember the days where they used to, and they would woo the press and to do all these things, and that just doesn't. I think their last big, was from the Wall Street Journal. What's his name? Walt Mossberg. That was.
I think that's they still do that show, but they're under new management. I think it's called Recode now.
Yeah.
Same show, same format, just different owner.
Yeah, exactly. So those heady days of Apple being out there are pretty much gone because, as you say, they just do it. They just do it themselves. They bring the press. They bring the mountain to Muhammad. Is what they're doing.
It's very much like Star Wars. You know, you have all these Star Wars fans saying they hate Star Wars, they hate it, but they'll watch that new trailer a billion times and break records, which, by the way, it did. It's the most watched new trailer of all time. And
really?
Yep, same with that. I guess the previous record owner, this is not a very noble record. The previous record was Jurassic World, so it's not exactly a high bar. But when it comes to these trade show stuff, like I said, I actually like CES because it's not about Apple, because it's all about robots and about cars and about toys and about 3D printing and about all this cool stuff that the tech community can't be bothered to do anymore. And it's what a shame that they've lost their innovative spirit in talking about really cool stuff. And truth be told, Ben, if you've never been there, half the stuff on the floor will never come out. But it doesn't need to. You know, because CES is not a show where you show stuff that's going to come out. It's sort of like Kickstarter before Kickstarter. You have these poor, especially the poor Chinese people. There's so many people from China, and I feel sorry for them. They're on the floor. They don't speak a word of English. Their whole budget was spent shipping these guys over so they can show off this product, and maybe the people from Best Buy will see it and buy a couple hundred. You know, and I speak a little Chinese, so I can get on the floor a little bit. But when it comes to the poor Americans trying to communicate with these people, it's a lost effort. It's not going to happen. But it's fun, and it's fun. And my favorite thing is the English. People who can't possibly spell. Oh, I take pictures. It's fun, but not fun enough to go. So.
Yeah. Well, it's
the moment when it stops being fun and stops serving a purpose is the moment it goes the way of all the others.
Let me put it this way: if you ever been a party animal, when you're younger and you're in your heady days, partying till 1 a.m. is a necessary. But now I'm like, you know what? The party stops at 10:30. I want to be home in time. That's CES. Once you've seen toys and robots and missiles and 3D printers, you kind of exhaust your ability to be excited. So let the new generation take over, and I'm happy with that. Let them do the hard work.
Well, you remember before CES there was Comdex. Remember, then Comdex basically folded into CES because Comdex was completely all computers and that trade show. I think the internet is responsible for so many of these trade shows just folding and going away.
And that's a shame because part of the joy of these shows, especially shows like CES where you have a hands-on, because the show, if you've been to one of the trade shows, one of a nasty little secret is that the major media already sees everything. They already have their favorites. So they're going to, if you're having a channel, you can only talk so much. The fun part is discovery.
Yeah.
Like discovering all this weird stuff.
Yeah, the little booths, they're not in the main focus.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And you know what? They might have something you'll never, ever see again. I can't tell you how many imitation Nintendo Wiis I saw like 2 years ago. And half this stuff would get them arrested for bootlegging, but they're fun. It's a lot of fun to see what people can do.
And you say they spend their whole budget to go out there.
Oh yes.
Yeah. It's sort of synonymous with a company will spend like most of its advertising budget for a 30-second commercial on the Super Bowl.
But it's sort of like with us with an editorialship with you kept calling us a magazine, and I appreciate the upgrade. Yeah. But we're a website, and with a website, you're only as good as the people who see you. And what happens is that you have people like Grayson, and you have people like Josh and Corey and all the team, and they have aspirations to work in magazine print and print journalism. And if you're going to be a journalist, sometimes this is the only place you'll ever have that sort of face time. And if Grayson Hamilton were to meet Charles Tendell, that would be something that could only legitimately happen at CES. What a great thing, to make FaceTime, because that is more important than 1,000 emails.
Do you think magazines are heading for extinction? I mean, everything's going to be online.
You mean heading?
No, magazines.
You're saying it like future tense.
Yeah.
I think we're talking about headed. I think magazines have their place, and you'll have no bigger acolyte than myself. I come from magazine land, but the reality is that magazines will have to transmogrify into something a lot more palatable. They're not newsmakers. They're not going to be news. But I think, and this is a touchy subject, but I do want to just touch on this for a second. You have magazines that are so indebted to social media, and what happens is that they cross the line sometimes. Nobody's reading a magazine to get the news anymore. I'm sorry. There might be someone in Okefenokee, Nebraska that still is behind the times, but we don't get news from magazines anymore. Instead we get stories.
Well, you go into Barnes and Noble and you'll see all these people they're huddled around in the magazines, reading them while they're doing the coffee, but they don't buy them. They just
Yeah.
read them and then they put them back. It's like a doctor's waiting office.
Well, that problem will solve itself when Barnes and Noble goes away, which would be sad. But it's there was a story this week about Barnes and Noble separating from Microsoft. They're ixing their Nook partnership, and that's sad. That was a revenue source for Barnes and Noble. But in reality, you have a magazine, and I'll tell you what. I'm going to do your audience a favor. I'm not going to say any details, but there was a particular magazine this week that published a story a couple weeks ago. It was inflammatory. It caused a lot of heartache for a lot of people. And it turns out that it wasn't true, or at least mostly wasn't true. And I remember reading the website for Rolling Stone today, and I remember seeing the retraction, only on the website, mind you, only on the website.
Mm-hmm.
That was about one sentence long. It said, a note to our readers. And in this retraction, they just had 3 paragraphs. They didn't take any responsibility because the magazine had sold a lot. Same magazine that put the alleged Boston bomber on their cover. That's how you sell magazines now. You sell magazines like a website like Gawker sells clicks. You're inflammatory. You peeve a lot of people off, even if it comes at the expense of hurting people deeply and emotionally and irrevocably. And I think if that's the future of magazine, is to be trash, then I say put it in the trash. I have no place for it. But if you're going to have a magazine like The Atlantic, or there's so many other great magazines out there, I can't even name it. I have 3 issues of Wired right in front of me. Yeah. Where I get to read an in-depth story, and I get to fold the pages out, and I can see this. There's a place for that, but I'm old-fashioned, and for me it would be a sad loss. But we don't send each other telegrams. We don't see the RKO Nickelodeon dime shows anymore at the movie theater to watch women dancing. There's a lot of technology that we grew up with that we have a fondness for, but it's been replaced by technology. And if we're going to replace magazines, I hope we don't replace them with the same crap that's mucking up the internet, because that would be a shame.
Newspapers? Would you same category?
I don't know. I think newspapers are like Nintendo Wii. The announcement they're dead has been greatly exaggerated, sort of like Mark Twain. I think there's a place for everything. I think as long as there's an interest, there's no reason to get rid of newspapers. There's no reason to get rid of magazines. There's no reason to get rid of anything that people enjoy.
But I think every newspaper now has its own website.
They do, but they always screw it up. That's the thing. The cool thing about the Wall Street Journal and the cool thing about New York Times is that they're completely inept when it comes to making websites. We're going to paywall this. We're going to paywall that. We're going to have an app for this. We're going to have an app for this. They don't understand it because they fear it. And again, now you read an issue of the New York Times. The New York Times has this weird reputation of being this bastion of truthfulness. In reality, it's the most corrupt one out there. They have native advertising. They have fake news stories. They publish as real stories. They're just like a blog. But they think they're above it because they have prestige. Look, there's a general rule to the universe. The older everything gets, becomes more valuable. That's why even dinosaur poo is worth a lot of money. But it's still poo, and that's New York Times. They might have been around for a while. They might have meant something at one point, but I wouldn't trust them any more than the National Enquirer, because you have to always look at the source. A couple months ago on the show, Ben and I were talking about Comcast and a story about this man who recorded a Comcast person not allowing him to delete a service. And I remember I made a bet with Ben. I said, I bet you $100 there's part of that conversation missing. And it turns out there was. It turns out it was a plot. And that doesn't make the story any less true, but it does color it in a way that makes you question what the next news story is going to be. And we live in a 24/7 news cycle. We don't wait for the news to happen anymore. We create it. Craig, you probably know this. Every once in a while, you see a magazine print an obituary for a celebrity that's not even dead. Whoops! Yeah. How'd that happen?
The retraction.
It's like a retraction. Yeah, Milton's still alive.
Yeah.
I think it happens. It happens because how do you create the news? Remember, Dewey wins the election. Remember that headline?
Yes, remember that. Mm-hmm.
Because you have to have these things on cue. And I feel bad for them because who's the guitarist on the Rolling Stones?
Mick Jagger?
Not Mick Jagger, the other guy. I can't remember his name right now.
Okay.
They've been waiting for him to die for 40 years. He's still alive. He fell out of a coconut tree, and he's still alive. He's not going to die. half the celebrity women in Hollywood that take drugs and want to be Marilyn Monroe, they're all going to croak before he does. But reality is that no, there's a place for newspapers. There's a place for newspapers and magazines, just like there's a place for books. If you would tell me that books are being replaced by digital, I would run for the hills, But that's just the inevitable encroach. But ultimately, I think if people still want it, hey, LP sales, vinyl sales are better than they've been in 30 years. I thought vinyl was dead.
So did I. What happened?
It came back. It's
What
like
do you play 'em
The
on?
hipsters. The hipsters.
the hipsters. I mean, the hipsters are good for three things. The hipsters are good for three things. One, horrible facial hair, skinny jeans, and fads. Because if something can survive a hipster, it's a good thing. Will vinyl ever come back and replace CDs and MP3s? Of course not. But somebody's making money off it. And if somebody's making money, then that's a good thing. As long as it's not on hardcore narcotics.
Wow.
And
Well-
skinny jeans.
Pick your battles, man. You can't hate everything.
I can hate those two things, trust me.
No cocaine or skinny jeans? Where's the line, sir? Where's the line?
Well, there's a joke about that, but no, but in reality is what I'll say is this. I'm no good at predicting the birth and death of anything, but I would say, having grown up with newspapers, magazines, and the internet, I enjoy them all. And I will continue to enjoy them all until they pry the newspaper from my cold, dead hands.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, we have about another couple of minutes here. I'm looking at Popzara, the website, and you have a lot of interesting news stories. Anything you want to kind of point out to our listeners that they might want to read up on Popzara?
Well, our own Grayson Hamilton, guest of both shows, he recently reviewed the first episode of the much anticipated Game of Thrones episodic game. He enjoyed that very much.
Okay. That was
Did he draw any conclusions to The Walking Dead?
He was a big fan of The Walking Dead, as was I. Walking Dead was the last video game I actually beat. And
Really?
It took me 6 months, but I finally beat Season 2. Vastly worse than the first season, but still enjoyable.
Yeah, I see. He did a review here for the Far Cry 4. He's done a review there, as well as you mentioned Game of Thrones. So, obviously he's working out very well for you. So much so that you're sending him out to the CES. And he's never been out to CES before too. So
I'm very. If nothing else, I'm very proud at the Popzara system. Is that if we do anything together, it's a mutual learning experience for everybody. I do have a little more experience than some in the industry, and it believe it or not, it has not made me cynical. Quite the opposite. I would say that my role is to mentor these people, and for someone like Grayson who's just starting off, if I can help him in any way and try to shape him in a way that I think is beneficial, I'll do that, and vice versa. I learn from him too. I mean, I don't follow the gaming industry anymore. Here's a little spoiler for anybody listening. Magazine editors don't know anything. We're the least useful person in any magazine and any website. But for some reason, people look to us as some sort of bastion of knowledge. I'm worthless without my staff. And for people like Grayson, Josh, and the rest of them, all wonderful people, I'm honored to work with them. And if I can send them out to CES to do the heavy lifting, oh yeah, let them go out to CES.
Wow,
it'll be fun.
Yeah, exactly. So again, you've got all the different game reviews there up on popzara.com, and you can go to the popzara.com website and check them out for yourself. As I said, we're pretty much out of time here. I just wanted to let everybody know that you have about 4 minutes left to get your entry in for a Logitech contest before we close down, shut it down. So head over to computeramerica.com and get your entry in right now. What's coming up on Monday? We have something called SciSaid Incorporated. This is basically an IT website, and it turns out that they make help desk software, and it's. I'm just trying to see what our booking got it all set up, and I don't see any information about it that's going to help me here. I guess it's for people who are moving from Windows 7 to the next version and Linux. And so they're going to be on the show.
Hopefully they have something set up for Windows 7 and Windows 10, because some,
Yeah, exactly.
Windows 8 didn't get much fanfare. They're probably just going to skip right over.
Evidently. And then also, an interesting company called GoTenna is going to be on the show. They
they grow goats with antennas on their head.
No,
You follow you around. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, this is a little. It's an antenna that you can use that actually extends the range of your system, and they're going to be on the program as well. And then we'll have our normal computer and technology news brought to you by Slimware Utilities, and they are the official optimization software of Computer America. You going to go see any movies this weekend, Nate?
This weekend?
Yeah. Anything coming up?
I thought about it. No, I think I'm going to hold off. I usually treat myself to a movie on Christmas, and my Christmas movies have usually been movies that no one would consider Christmas movies. Last year, I saw The Grudge Match with Stallone and Robert De Niro. And slightly disappointed because I was so involved in it.
I started watching it on HBO. I got about a quarter way into it, and I couldn't watch it.
That movie should have been a slam dunk. Should have been a knockout. But unfortunately, they mishandled it. I think the year before that, I saw. I don't know if it might have been the same year. They all blur. I saw The Wolf on Wall Street, which I thought was excellent.
Oh, I didn't catch that either. Yeah.
And it's on Netflix now, I believe. If you haven't seen
it.
Yes,
it is.
Big movie. Martin Scorsese.
90 seconds.
And my favorite Christmas movie I've ever seen of all time was Django Unchained. But I will say this, I think I might stay home because I want to make one last thing. If we've talked about it on the show, if anybody hasn't seen the show Black Mirror, it's now available on Netflix. It's the best sci-fi show in recent memory, and there's going to be a Christmas episode starring John Hamm on Christmas. The show is fantastic. Black Mirror, Black Mirror, Black Mirror. So that means you don't have to bootleg it anymore. You can now watch it legally.
60
All right.
seconds.
Well, we'll check it out. That's certainly, and thanks for the reference. And stay with us to the end. We'll have our after show on Hangouts. In the meantime, thank you so much, everybody, for being with us here tonight. And have a great weekend. And then Ben and I will be back with both those guests on Monday. Again, that's SciSed Technology and the people who make GoTenna.
Who make goats.
Yes.
And see, for all they know, it could be about goats. They have to tune in to find out if it's about goats.
What a stretch. What a stretch.
Goat Simulator. There we go. They're fun.
All right, everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday night. So until Monday night, this is Craig Crossman hoping that your hard disk never becomes floppy. We'll see you Monday
10
night.
seconds.
Jen.
Say goodnight.
Good night.
All right.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Okay, again, everybody for watching, thanks so much on our Google Hangouts video, and have a great weekend. And Ben and I will see you Monday. Thanks again, Nate, for being here.
You're welcome.
It's always fun, and we'll see you next month, okay?
We'll be there.
All righty, everybody. Good night.
All right.
All right.